Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Brigadier Peter Connor AM to speak to us this afternoon on the war in Afghanistan, the recent commander's experiences. Peter enlisted in the Australian Army in 1985, commissioned in 1988, and he served as the platoon commander of the 4th Battalion of the Royal Green Jackets, which is a British Army Territorial Infantry unit, and also in the 2nd 17th Royal New South Wales Regiment. Brigadier Connor has served on a wide range of appointments at brigade and divisional level, including Staff Officer Grade 1 Regional Operations, responsible for the coordination of deployments in the Solomon Islands, Assistant Commander Headquarters 8th Brigade, G5 Headquarters 2nd Division, Director General Reserves, Headquarters Forces Command, and he is currently the Director General Reserves Army in Army Headquarters in Canberra. His command experience is wide and includes Commanding Officer of the 2nd 17th Royal New South Wales Regiment, Commander of the Combined Task Force 635 rotation to the Solomon Islands, Commander of the 9th Brigade in Adelaide from 2014, Commander of the 8th Brigade in Sydney from 2015 to 2016, and Commander of the Task Group Afghanistan from November 2017 to September 2018. So would you please welcome to the podium Brigadier Peter Connor.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your introduction. And also, I was SO1 recruiting and retention. I think it was 2 under someone. From November 2017 to September last year, I deployed to Kabul and was commander of Task Group Afghanistan. This was personally and professionally a very rewarding deployment and opportunity to serve with Australian men and women from the Air Force, Navy, Army and the public service. In this time, there were glimpses of progress and of hope. There was the implementation of the South Asia policy, and there was also an increase in violence. And also at this time, Australia's commitment to Afghanistan increased in supporting some of the training academies. Slide, please. So a quote from the current President. And today that's significant because today in Kabul there is a lawyer jirga of about 3,200 key stakeholders in Afghanistan who are meeting to actually determine the structure for peace and negotiations with the Taliban, which is quite a significant event, or it may at least be slightly. So what I'll cover today is, I'll set the scene, looking at the geopolitical, the threat, the current missions in Afghanistan, being Resolute Support and Freedom Sentinel. Cover what Australia's commitment currently is in Afghanistan, and also looking to the key events of 2018. Some observations on command, and then looking to the future of Afghanistan. Now I'd note that on the 2nd of September when I left Kabul, a new American commander, General Scott Miller, was appointed to Resolute Support, or to command US Forces Afghanistan. And since then, with the new commander, things have been done differently. So I can certainly reflect on my time there, and as you would expect, we track what occurs subsequently, but by not being on the ground, there's a degree of granularity that I certainly wouldn't have. So, Afghanistan. Afghanistan's a country of about 35 million people. It's smaller, it would fit into New South Wales to give some idea of size. The majority, it's made up of 6 main ethnic groups, the majority being Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek and Hazara. These ethnic groups are significant as to how Afghanistan functions and the allegiances and alliances of those various racial groups, and their influences on them. The country is 99% Muslim, with the majority Sunni. As you'll see, Afghanistan is bordered by Pakistan, Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and China. That is significant to the internal affairs and external affairs of Afghanistan. So looking to the environment, that's a photo in late spring, early summer, at the back of Kabul, and it is very green. From November to probably April, the colour of the land is very much as reflected in those mountains. Everything is grey and brown, and from where I worked, you couldn't see anything that was actually alive, other than people. It is fairly bleak, but then when spring and the snowfalls come, the countryside changes, in a lot of areas at least. In 2018, a visiting senior Afghan officer remarked on his visit to Australia that Australia was a very lucky country in that we're in an island, in that we had no neighbours on our borders, as Afghanistan does. And that certainly was quite a simple but profound statement as to the impact on what happens within Afghanistan with those 6 nations that may compete and may have sort of aligned aims or maybe not aligned aims. This also reflected the impact of various proxy wars being conducted in Afghanistan through history by state and non-state actors. To provide a perspective, in Anzac Day last year, we commemorated the 100th anniversary of Villers-Brettoneux, and also Anzac Day. On that, 3 days later, in Kabul, no one commemorated 40 years of conflict because the 28th of April 2018 marked the 40th anniversary of the Saur Revolution, where the government was overthrown. And when you look at a country that's had 40 years of conflict, of fighting, and where that's intergenerational, and that is what people understand is their world and how things work, it is quite challenging, I would suggest, to change that. But certainly there is a great aim to do so. Recent conflict in Afghanistan is complex, having moved from major conflict, initially with the Russian invasion of 1979, civil war, Taliban rule, the overthrow of the Taliban, and is now suggested by a senior British officer who deployed to Afghanistan on a number of occasions. Instead of a war, we now have an insurgency, where the majority of the people seek a stable life, and it's only a small percentage that seek otherwise. This suggests progress, as does the widespread use of electricity, improvement in education, infrastructure and national flags. One of the people I served with had been to Afghanistan in about 2005, and at that stage it's like, well, what's changed? And a lot of it's infrastructure, with more funding coming into Afghanistan, more power, so there's more lights. People can do more with that electricity. But one of the things he commented on was the Afghan flag. In that, in 2005, you wouldn't have seen it. You might have seen it on vehicles, but certainly not in the communities. And the Afghan flag is far more prevalent, which I would suggest leads to more pride in country and understanding of nation. Another lens to look at is that of a country at war, undergoing a narco, or rather than a country at war, looking at a country undergoing a narco-insurgency, where the blend of criminals and fighters is blurred. Afghanistan's the largest producer in the world of opium. This also then feeds to what resolution for Afghanistan can be in the future. If I go to, sorry, back one. If I go to threats, the main threat groups that we certainly dealt with are the Taliban, the Haqqani network who are aligned to the Taliban, ISIS, Khorasan province, and Al-Qaeda. They each have different aims, they each align in different ways to each other. They each have different TTPs, so practices of how they operate, and different boundaries as to how they will operate, and for some of them lack of boundaries, that there is no restraint. So from that I draw that we don't have a uniform adversary, and therefore the threat will change on a daily basis. In August 2017, President Trump announced the South Asia strategy, a strategy that deployed an additional 3,500 troops to Afghanistan, provided US forces greater flexibility to attack the Taliban and ISIS Khorasan province and other extremist groups. In addition, the strategy placed greater emphasis on efforts to build the capacity of the Afghan security forces. This also included the deployment of, in those 3,500 soldiers, of a SFAB, which is a Security Force Assistant Brigade. I will try to restrain myself from using acronyms, but the very nature of being in the military is that they are second nature. So please, if I start talking in a garbled manner, just stop. But SFABs, key term, and very effective. The strategy also calls for significantly regional actors, particularly Pakistan, to increase pressure on the Taliban to enter a reconciliation process. So this was significantly a conditions-based strategy, not set on a finite time table. And you would see today also that Imran Khan from Pakistan has also made statements as to the peace process in Kabul and seeking for that to succeed and for Pakistan to support that process. So Australia's commitment. Australia has deployed forces to Afghanistan since November 2001. The current Australian commitment aligns to the Strategic Defence Objective from the 2016 White Paper to contribute military capabilities to coalition operations that support Australia's interest in a rules-based global order. To do this, Australia is working with the international community, based around NATO, towards a secure and stable Afghanistan that is no longer a safe haven for international terrorism. That's the objective. So breaking that down, what do we do? So what does the Australian Defence Force do? Operation High Road is Australia's commitment to support Operation Resolute support. Operation Resolute support is the NATO mission, the Train Advise Assist mission in Afghanistan. This is a mission that commenced on the 1st of January 2015, and it reflects the transition from ISAF, so the International Security Assistance Force, where there were 100,000 soldiers on combat operations in Afghanistan. As at 1 January, we're looking at an element of about 15,000 doing quite a different mission. And the purpose of this mission is to help develop the Afghan security institutions, be that the Ministry of the Interior, the Ministry of Defence, the police. There are various facilities that actually support that security. Our commitment through Operation High Road involves operational planning, force generation processes, management and development of personnel, budgetary processes, logistical sustainment and civilian oversight. I'll go into detail as to what that actually means. They're quite high-level aims, but certainly that's the things that we then deliver against in this mission. So, Operation Resolute Support has about 16,000 people in it, and Australia has about 300 troops deployed, with the main troop contributing nations of America, Germany, Georgia, United Kingdom, Romania, Turkey and Italy. Australia is the second largest non-NATO country that is deployed there, but it's a mix of about 39 countries. On the other side, we've got Operational Freedom Sentinel. So that is the American US 4 Alpha, so United States Forces Afghanistan, counter-terrorism mission. And that is a specific mission by America into Afghanistan to effectively ensure that in the future you will not have, or Afghanistan will not be a base for global terrorism. And that's specifically targeting ISIS-KP, so Khorasan Province, Al-Qaeda, and as well as the Taliban. Commander US Forces Afghanistan is the lead of the NATO mission, so Resolute support. He is also the lead of Freedom Sentinel. So one of those missions is very much US focused, being Freedom Sentinel, while the NATO mission being Resolute support. That causes some interesting conversations and priorities between the two missions and the focuses of the nations and how they meld together. You'll also find that a lot of the American officers and staff then have a basis of working for both. So they will actually support Freedom Sentinel and also Resolute support, which are quite distinct missions. So if I take you to Task Group Afghanistan, so that's the 300 or so Australians currently deployed in Kabul. So just to identify the difference between our Train, Advise, Assist mission and that of ISAF. In ISAF, when Australia had forces in Afghanistan, we were deployed mainly in Uruzgan Province, which is now in Train, Advise, Assist Command South, based around Tarin Kowt. And that was in a task group with a lot more people. Now in January 2015, ISAF commands transitioned to the Train, Advise, Assist command. So if I could ask if you could go back 3 slides, please, to the map. So you'll see there in the green boxes the various Train, Advise, Assist commands. So bordering onto Pakistan, you've got Train, Advise, Assist command east, and then south, southwest, west, north, and then TAC-C is TAC capital being Kabul, in Kabul province. Now, TAC West is commanded by an Italian brigadier with Italian elements based in Herat. TAC North is based on the Germans. TAC capital is based on the Turks. TAC East is American, as is TAC South and TAC Task Force Southwest. So that reflects the transition from ISAF to smaller commands with a lot fewer soldiers there, providing training, advising and assistance. So, Task Group Afghanistan, made up predominantly of men and women from the Air Force and Navy and Army. Army is obviously the largest provider. Also with 3 APS, public servants, that varies. And members are both full-time and part-time. So if I just run through these, not as shown on the screen, if I cut to the third one. Firstly, ANAL, so that's the Afghan National Officer Academy. That's out of Qaeda in Western Kabul. We provide trainers and force protection to that. It's been described as dungeon in the sand, and it's very much to train a basic level officer up to be effectively a platoon commander. There are 3 graduations a year of up to 350 per graduation, which is an outstanding number of people that are moved through that system. Next we have Command and Staff Academy, which is a German-led Train, Advise, Assist mission, also based at Karga. The Academy CSA has about 1,300 students who go through. If you're familiar with the Australian Defence Forces training, that runs from courses that would run it from Canungra to Western Creek, so Staff College, and then also senior course. So it covers a range of officer training. That's a mission that started in January last year with Germans and also with Australian advisors to that. And that advice is to the whole academy, not to resource it, not to conduct the instruction, but to work on how the infrastructure of that academy can actually develop and then be sustained in the future. And out at Koga we also have the Sergeant Majors Academy, which in December 2017 an Australian team came in, all Australians, and then started advising that academy. The academy has one colonel as the commanding officer, and all the other staff are then warrant officers. So it doesn't fit within our model, it fits more in the American model, and so therefore when we had an RSM and 3 or 4 other Australian officers come in, there was some interesting opportunities to really develop this, and they are very determined to develop because there's a lot of reliance based on the sergeant majors within the Afghan army. Next we have NSOC Alpha and SOAG, which is the Special Operations Advisory Group, which provide trained advice assist to the headquarters of the General Command of Police Special Units in Kabul. So that's a police element that's, I would suggest, a paramilitary element that actually deals with most complex attacks that occur in Kabul. It is highly effective, and we then provide advices to the headquarters of that, and also some protection to the people who go out and actually mentor the commander, so the Major General of that element. Kabul Garrison Command. So there's a command that is responsible for the security of Kabul. We have one of the largest advising teams that is now a Turkish-Australian team with an Australian lead that is responsible for them developing that headquarters. So that headquarters is responsible for security in Kabul, which has about 5 million people. It's a joint headquarters, so it's Army, Police, NDS, which is the National Directorate of Security, and melding those 3 elements together to provide effective operations within Kabul. Next, TAC South. So we have a number of Australians there who work in the planning team, and as described by one of the Lieutenant Colonels who completed that. So it's an American headquarters. We then have a number of people who work in their headquarters, responsible for the planning of missions with the Afghan forces. That he learned so much from that, from the conduct of contemporary counterinsurgency operations using current technology, and that was sort of a great opportunity to learn. Next we've got TAC Air. I described TAC Air, so that's Train Advise Assist Command Air, of building an air force. The Afghan Air Force provides overmatch on any threat element, so they don't have air forces. And it really is then developing an air force and air power to support the ANDSF. So that's from training pilots, be it fixed wing or rotary wing, so helicopters, training the logisticians to actually maintain it, training the people who are responsible for ammunition allocation and storage, training the people who develop, who maintain the pilot's equipment so that they can fly. Also communications. So the expanse of that is quite challenging, and the achievements, certainly while I was there, of the increase in effectiveness and capability of the Afghan Air Force was quite remarkable. There is still a long way to go to train people to actually use sophisticated technology, but certainly there is very much some shining lights who are making progress there. Embeds, so loose term for those individuals who are then embedded into other organisations. Now that ranges from, we provide people responsible for operational planning, logistic planning. We provide the gender advisor to the commander of Resolute support. Some of the planning staff were responsible, for example, for the election planning through last year and this year. And that's not just for security, but that's for the coordination of a lot of the elements within Afghanistan of actually making the elections run and be conducted. We also provide staff to the Counter-IED Task Force, which is through, and the support of Project Redmond, which is an Australian-made counter-IED technology, which you should look up and understand, because it's a great thing that Australia has done. It's very effective, and it has a great place within Afghanistan. Finally, we have the Role 2 Hospital at Kabul, which provides medical, dental, nursing staff in a Role 2 facility that supports the NATO mission and the US Waratha mission. And that's a multinational headquarters. They also provide a aeromedical evacuation capability out of Kabul. Finally, at the top, at the top, the headquarters is made up of all the functions that you would expect of a headquarters, from the commander, an RSM, chief of staff, and then through personnel, intelligence, operations, logistics, communications. Underpinning all of those elements is the Force Protection Company. So while I was deployed, that came from firstly B Company, 3rd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, that was then replaced by C Company, 3rd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, that was then replaced by D Company, 6RAR. And 6RAR, D Company actually had its handover parade on the anniversary of Long Ten last year, which was very appropriate for that company to step back on operations, and certainly momentous day for them. These soldiers are professional, confident, well provisioned with contemporary weapons and appropriate contemporary protection, and vehicles such as Bushmasters. These are all very effective. They provided a clear standard and were the force protection of choice. We had other nations actively seeking our soldiers to support them, with some people actually going and saying, I want an Australian team to support me. And it's like, thank you, no. They are here to support us, and where we have multinational teams, they'll support whoever we're travelling with. No problem there. But that just shows the level that they were at, and it's a great compliment to them and to the training that they go through. One standout for me from the deployment was working with the Force Protection Company. So that's one of the corporals who ran a P&V section out of where I was based. So he had a section of about 12 soldiers. He was responsible for the movement, safety of various elements around Kabul. And we had privates and lance corporals then running some of those patrols with great responsibility, and because of their professionalism and getting the right tone, they were very much respected and had the respect both ways of those that advise us that they're actually moving and supporting. And one of the skills that we rarely see is that they're able to escalate and de-escalate, to read a situation and actually respond to that. And by their very presence and certainly not relaxed demeanour, but not threatening demeanour, they could then move up or move down, remove people from situations, and therefore provide that sense of force protection that we needed to operate. So they did an exceptional job. So, 2017-2018, some general observations. I'll cover events through the back end of 2017, then into 2018, with some insights that may give you an understanding of the environment, some of the considerations of operating in Afghanistan, and some of the events that have occurred and that will then flow through. So firstly, winter. It was a very mild winter. In the back of the photo there, that's an Afghan soldier in the vicinity of Karga, is the Hindu Kush with snow. There was very limited snow over the winter of 17-18. I wore a coat on, I think, 3 occasions. It got down to -6 or so, but there just wasn't much snow. The impact of that was that the fighting season just continued. because people were able to move men, weapons and equipment, explosives into areas and therefore continue to fight. The other impact of that was on with the rainfall, so the snow melt in spring just wasn't there, which then impacted on the ability to farm, crops you would grow, and also the displacement of large rural populations. With certainly the consideration of will we now have almost a forced migration of people throughout Afghanistan moving into urban areas. Secondly, the new advisor teams. So, as I described, the Command Staff Academy commenced, and also the Sergeant Majors Academy. The challenges that they faced of moving into a new environment, both of those teams hadn't existed when they started, so they actually had to do the analysis as to what are you going to do, where can we influence and develop this academy. So, from my point of view, they did an exceptional job in that. In developing rapport with the people that they were mentoring and supporting, and also with the various other bits of NATO that they had to work with and work around. They demonstrated resilience and energy, both on, and by the end of it had really cemented our place within those teams and with those academies to make longer lasting changes that would assist. Next we have Kabul security. So in January 2018, ISIS-KP attacked the Save the Children compound in Jalalabad to the east, and by doing that killed a number of people, and Save the Children then left Afghanistan because of the threat. That then followed 3 main attacks in Kabul in January. So on the Intercontinental Hotel, where about 43 people were killed, and then the police units then came in and cleared the Intercontinental Hotel. Then there was a vehicle-borne IED on the Jamhuriyat Hospital, which killed over 100 people, and that was mainly civilians. And then finally there was an attack on an Afghan army base by ISIS-KP that then killed another 18 soldiers, and we had then Australian medics actually supporting the treatment of some of those casualties, which really reinforced to me the training that we undertook, in that we had a number of our medics saving lives, and to talk to the medic and then see the soldier who'd been shot and was on death's door in one piece the next day, so an Afghan soldier, was a great testament of them getting involved in the skill set, which also then reinforced the training that we were doing to be able to support ourselves and the people we worked with. From those 3 events in Kabul, there was then a focus on security in Kabul. And certainly the Australian Kabul Garrison Command team then had a real task to actually ensure that the Kabul Garrison Command was functioning. So a lot of NATO assets and interest was then placed on Kabul to ensure that the work that was being done and the various institutions could operate effectively without that threat. Significantly, if I move to the next point, on the ceasefire. So, on the 28th of February last year, the President of Afghanistan, at the Kabul Peace Conference, offered the Taliban peace talks without preconditions, which was the first. And over the 15th to the 17th of June, over the Eid al-Fitr holiday, the Afghan government and Taliban honoured a ceasefire. Now, this was the first time in 17 years that actually stopped fighting. ISIS-KP was not a party to this ceasefire, and neither were we. So, which had ramifications for us. But in that time, Taliban moved to a number of regional centres, left their weapons literally at the gates, and went in and spent 3 days with their family and people they may or may not have met. That showed to a large proportion of the population that there was an alternative to what they'd been doing for the last 40 years, and has had some long, or hopefully, some long-term effects. In August, the President offered a 3-month ceasefire until the 20th of November 2018, which was not accepted by the Taliban. And as I mentioned today, there is a meeting in Kabul to determine how the next round of peace talks, or how that should be structured. SFABs, which I mentioned, so Security Force Assistant Brigades, they're American training teams that then deployed forward with their Afghan units that they were supporting. The SFABs were made up of all volunteers, all American officers and NCOs who had all served previously in either Iraq or Afghanistan and were determined to assist and make a difference. They were also then supported by assets that, with the pivot out of Iraq into Afghanistan in early 2018, they were then supported by a number of ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance assets, and also kinetic elements, so as in aircraft and various other facilities to actually provide that direct support to the SFABs. They made a difference in empowering the ANDSF to manoeuvre, and in a number of places they manoeuvred where they previously hadn't, and even through ISAF times. A number of the officers we had in the contingent had served in TAC South at that time, in 2012, 2013, and some of the things that the Afghan National Defence Force was doing there had not been achieved with a lot more people. So that's a testament to that, and also to the initiative of some of the commanders there. ISIS-KP. So throughout 2017 and 2018, the presence of ISIS-KP increased, and their violence also increased as a very disruptive force. In the north of Afghanistan, in Jowzjan province, in about mid to late 2018, and the Taliban actively fought ISIS-KP and ended with the surrender of about 200 fighters and family, and also significant effects to the north, to the east in Nangarhar province. ISIS-KP still does pose a threat, and has been identified as something that needs to be removed to actually achieve peace. Elections. In October 2018, district and provincial elections were conducted. That was a long process to get to that process. As I mentioned, one of the Australian officers involved in advising was key to actually standing up that capability, working with a number of other elements. And a lot of the campaigning and military effort was to then secure areas of Afghanistan to allow people to register. So in Afghanistan, elections aren't as we will face in 3 weeks' time. In Afghanistan, you first got to register everyone. And because there's not a central database of your population, because there isn't an accurate census, you then need to bring people in to actually register. And then you need to get them to vote at a later time. You also need candidates to register. So it isn't the go to your local public school, have a sausage sandwich at the end of it. It is very much a very deliberate process where you're looking at what are the securities for the voter registration centres, how many female searches do you have, how many male searches, when will they be open, how do you let various people in, how do you provide that envelope of security around them. It also was defined by then various of the threat elements seeking to posture themselves by significant actions, and that was demonstrated in Ghazni in August and in Farah in May, where Taliban actually moved into those main regional centres to demonstrate that they were, they did have power and could project themselves. Both of those, the Taliban were moved at, quite high casualties, but they had, looking at their information operations, whether that was successful or not, but there was certainly a lot of posturing through 2018. The NATO commitment. In July 2018 at the NATO summit in Brussels, NATO members and Resolute support operational partners agreed to extend their financial support and their commitment to Resolute support until 2024. That reflects the South Asia policy to some extent, having a longer term that may not be then weighted out. And it also reflected Australia's then added commitment to Resolute support in the provision of UH-60 or Black Hawk pilots and maintainers, which are now in place in Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. Inherent law. In 2018, inherent law was implemented. This sought to remove and retire more than 3,500 older officers across all services of the Afghan Defence Force, partly to create a structure that reflected a more contemporary service, also to reduce corruption, and to provide an opportunity for younger, more educated officers to come through. As General Vattel, Commander Central Command, stated, this will replace the older leadership with a new generation of Afghan officers and commanders whose principal experience is driven by their relationship with the US and other coalition forces. This was also to promote greater transparency and greater opportunity. So observations. There are actually some soldiers from B Company 3 RAR out at Kaga in Western Kabul in winter, just about to redeploy. So, firstly, command. To provide some context, the task group's geographically dislocated. So we've got three elements or three areas that we work out of in Kabul, and also to the north in Bagram, and also in Kandahar in the south. About half the elements are under different command structures, so are actually embedded into other nations' commands or into Resolute support. Many of these people are then immersed in their roles. The threat is constant and dynamic. Some advisor teams and force protection come in on a 6-monthly basis as a team, but the majority of people come in as individual roundouts. So what that means is that there's a constant churn of people. Movements by road or rotary wing in Kabul, and then fixed wing or rotary wing outside of Kabul. Using American, British, New Zealand or Australian assets. When I look at the command function, it has an internal role into the people of the task group, but it certainly has a strong external role, working with the ambassador in Kabul, and also with the Defence Attaché, with Australia's strategic engagement with Afghanistan, but also all our NATO partners. To understand command, that context is relevant. One of the things we identified with just the constant churn of people is lessons. How do we actually pass on why we do things and how we do those things? Where we may have been performing, so if we look at the force protection, that was there from FPV8, so force protection 8. So 7 teams have come and gone and done things. The environment's changed, but how do we then get people to question and then not become complacent? And that's exactly what they did. There are always things that you can improve, and with a curious mind and initiative, there were certainly things that we identified that we addressed, but at the end of it you'd be amazed how could we let that go, but also it really kept us on our toes. Because of the dislocated nature of the task group, I also relied on setting standards, obvious thing to do, and adopted the Army's values of courage, initiative, respect and teamwork. They became the task group's values, regardless of service, or be it Army, Navy, Air Force or APS. So that's what we then lived by. That was reinforced on a very routine and regular basis, and how people were judged. A tenet of my command was also that of the 17th Battalion, factor Brigadier, so deeds prove. It's not what we talk about, but it's actually how we conduct ourselves and looking for positive action. So that's something that we pushed out into the task group with an expectation that people would actually do things on a positive basis with an outcome. And my expectation is that I will judge them on that. The majority of the people I've never met before, and the majority of the people have never met me. So they didn't know what a Connor was, and I didn't know what they were. And that was, I must admit, incredibly successful in that you had no preconceptions. The expectation is you would do your job, whatever that job was. If you didn't know, you better clarify. And I would judge them on it, and they would certainly judge me on it. Doctrine. Australia has had a commitment to advising since 1962, 1963 in Train Advice Assist through Vietnam. My father served in the Australian Army training team in 1970, and in 2018 we issued doctrine on that very capability of Train Advice Assist, grabbing those lessons for the last 50 years so that we had a better structure to actually go forward. When you look at Op Augury, which is the operation, it's a global operation, but for example, the efforts currently in the Philippines and supporting the Philippines, that is also under a Train Advisor system. I would suggest that looks to the future of the Australian Defence Force and how we will posture ourselves and assist in the future. The Train Advisor Assist mission was not centred on providing resources, but it was about development and sustainment, and therefore shaping a solution that may not be the solution that we would have with our resources and background and experiences, but was a solution that would actually sustain itself and could be implemented by whatever element of the Afghan security forces it was. So that was quite a lesson to learn as to it wasn't a worse standard, it was a different solution that could actually exist there when we were not there. One of the other considerations of it was that some of the people had had 17 years of advising, where they had had an advisor every year to come and change their world and tell them how it should be. So part of being an advisor, from my observations and dealing with some of the Afghans, was actually building that rapport and understanding what is achievable. And for some of the advisors, it was realising, I'm not actually going to see the benefits of my effort. It's going to be in 1 or 2 years' time when those systems and people actually accept and change. Integration and the total workforce model. So, integration into the task force, task group and the mission was relatively seamless. I found that people knew and did their job. Their background, gender or service was irrelevant. They were accepted. I'm a part-time officer with different experiences. That was quite irrelevant. It was not a differentiator at all. This was really brought to me on Christmas Day, where someone came up to me in the hall outside my office, took me aside, shook my hand, wished me happy Christmas and said, I'm a part-time officer also. Sorry? And I expected sort of a secret handshake or something. It was just, it did not matter. And I think that's a great reflection on the ADF and in our training and cultural change. That just as long as you are doing your job, it does not matter what your background is. I was not sensitive to it, and across all elements, there were part-time members and full-time members. And the basis of their service certainly did not determine their effectiveness. One of the things I certainly did see in that change of culture was evidence in the successful application of the reserve battle group, and through the force generation cycle that the Army runs, that then people who had gone through that training program then deployed. That's either as officers or as force protection in the force protection company. So I see my experience in the task group as a a very positive reflection on the ADF and the total workforce model. This provides for different, so you might be CIRCAT 7, so service category 7, and then you might transition to 5, which is then on a part-time basis, and you may then move between those as the requirement is. So this also, my experience reflected very much on the ADF's selection processes, individual and collective training, and as the majority of the task group had not deployed previously, they applied themselves and certainly achieved the mission that we had. Looking to the future, so TAC Air, with our continuing involvement in Train Advice Assist Command Air, I see that there is great potential there to actually develop the Afghan Air Force. And certainly in TAC South, towards the end of last year, Brigadier John Shanahan took over the command of TAC South when the American Brigadier General who was commanding TAC South was wounded. So John Shanahan took over that. But within that element, with the Australian planners who are there, they have an exponential role and a very positive impact on the conduct of TAC South and also on the conduct of the Afghan National Army Corps. The academies, so ANOA, the Sergeant Major's Academy, and also the Command and Staff Academy continue to grow, and that will have a lasting, or I see that it will have a lasting legacy in the education and development of the officer and senior NCOs of the Afghan National Army, and also of their commandos and other elements. Finally, a military solution. It's been described that the war in Afghanistan, or insurgency, is at a stalemate, and that realisation is that there will not be a military outcome, and that therefore there must be a political outcome and negotiation through peace. And that's evidence in what's happening today, and that's also evidence of the realisation across more recently as to that. And finally, there are presidential elections in September this year, which offer an opportunity for a change within Afghanistan and greater participation of the people. In conclusion, the task group is making a difference to improve the capability and capacity in a sustainable manner for the institutions of Afghanistan. This also upskills our people through practice, through developing a relationship with partners, and demonstrates our ability as a capable and contemporary force. This aligns to deliver capability in accordance with at least the Chief of the Army's vision of accelerated warfare, as we operate against different threats in a joint environment, and we're agile and able to actually change in that environment. Further information on the current state of Afghanistan, that noting that I left in September last year, comes from these three documents I've offered to you. Firstly, the survey of the Afghan people, which has been done over a number of years, and actually tracks changes through a survey of about 10,000 people per year as to their view on the economy, security, their hopes and aspirations. A review of Operation Freedom Sentinel, and finally the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. The last two documents, or all three, or the last two are American. They are very direct documents and worth the read to understand what's happening at the moment.